Hello, welcome. So today we're going to talk about retrospectives, specifically about remote retrospectives and how to turn them unforgettable. The starting point for this is that we believe that retrospectives are fundamental because they allow to unlock people and organizational learning. Hence, it is very important for us to make sure that we deliver an unforgettable retrospective and that we get unforgettable outcomes from that retrospective in order to improve. My name is Nastasia Lasco, and I'm the founder of Growth Vikings. I'm myself and a Scrum Master currently finishing my Advanced Scrum Master certification and my Black Belt Six Sigma certification. From background, I'm an economist and political sciences with 3 masters. But extremely passionate about agility and how it can impact positively organizational development and business growth. So let's start, yes? I introduce you to Growth Vikings very briefly. So we are currently an initiative seeking to foster access to agile knowledge, especially by organizations that are starting the creation of their product and or their services through tech or social impact driven organizations. We're looking forward to support them in their agility journey and help them grow. Yeah, so if you want to learn a little bit more about Growth Vikings, feel free to go to www.growthvikings.com and contact us. All right. Now, why do you think we have the butterfly in the front page of Unforgettable Remote Retrospectives? I asked this question in the Agile Leads meetup in London. Several answers emerged. Oh, they're just beautiful aesthetically. And other people start going a little bit more deep in a sense like, well, they're an icon for transformation. They're an icon for development and other very interesting words. And actually, that partly explains why the butterfly is at the beginning of the presentation. Retrospective can allow our teams go from a caterpillar to what I call a butterfly, organizational butterflies. Retrospectives can be the space in which they can overview, in a very sincere and honest way, how are they doing what they're doing, how are they feeling with what they're doing, and how they can improve and be better. Yeah, so hopefully the continuous practice of retrospective across our organization and the different products that we're generating, the different services that we're generating, or the different projects that we're managing can allow our team members to go from being a caterpillar to just be a butterfly. Someone that within the organization is autonomous, has great learning, and has the capacity to inspect and adapt continuously. So that's why the butterfly is at the beginning of the presentation. Now, in a snapshot, what we're going to see. So I'm going to share with you what I learned from 54 retrospectives in 5 months. All right. And my journey to kind of thinking what can make a retrospective, especially a remote one, unforgettable. In my journey, you will see that I actually got to acknowledge that there are some contextual variables that can impact your retrospective, and that there are some process and psychological variables that can also impact your retrospective. Hence, retrospectives are not just an event where you just go and ask what we did wrong, what we did well, what we can improve. There is much behind it if we take it professionally and seriously, and with the aim to support our team members and to also generate an effective outcome for the organization and the inspection and adaptation that it should achieve with retrospectives. A little bit, the agenda is that we're going to talk what has been understood as an agile retrospective, all right, and an approach for agile retrospective. And then we're going to go and focus directly on a portfolio of retrospective and retrospective tools. Yeah. And in the last part, feel free to drop all your questions and experiences in the YouTube area for comments. It will be lovely just to get more of your insights and your learnings. Also, feel free to join us at the Agile Leads meetup in London, and you can share there your learnings with the rest of the community. We have lots of resources there available for anyone who's interested in growing as an Agile leader, as an Agile change maker. So let's talk about Agile retrospectives. So some time ago already, I got my Scrum Master certification, even though way before that I was doing it, right? And every time, I approach a retrospective, of course, I was very careful as a Scrum Master and as a lover of a Scrum and someone that knows the power that it can have, that when I went to my spring retrospective, I made sure that, we were inspecting the sprint, what went on with people, what went on with relationships, what went on with processes, what went on with tools, either an overview of it all in a retrospective or a focus in some of these items in the retrospective. Yeah. Of course, after that, I made sure that we identified and ordered the major items that emerge, okay, and that could become potential improvements for us in their next sprint. And then I made sure that we introduce that in the next sprint and that we gather that information for what we call our improvement guidelines. Yeah. So the focus was really on achieving that goal of providing a space for the team to inspect themselves and generate a plan to improve. Now, the problem that I had was not the understanding at a strategic level, yes, and not the understanding at an operative level of what I could do and what I should do, but it was more of how could I make this an experience, right? So if my team are my main customers, how could I generate for them a customer experience with my retrospective? Yes, still being focused on the key things that Scrum teaches us, right? And that we want to achieve because we want our teams to inspect and adapt. But how can I make this an experience for them? An experience. So I came across a wonderful book written by Esther Derby and Diana Larsen, after many books that I looked on the matter, that I loved because it had this customer experience approach. It treated my team members as people that I should look for, just giving them a good time while they are thinking critically on how to improve. Yeah. So in that book, Esther Derby and Diana Larsen kind of give some steps to achieve a pretty good retrospective, one that turn good teams into great teams, right? So those steps were, be careful and set the stage, gather the data, generate insights, decide what to do, and close the retrospective. So these were the steps that they created and that they proposed in order to support teams that were doing the retrospective and transform them from good teams into great teams. Now, the truth is that for me, this wasn't enough because the organizational dynamic urged me to think, well, these steps are nice, but there's something else that I got to consider actually for me to achieve an unforgettable retrospective, and one that is also effective, because at the end, my responsibility as a Scrum Master is to make sure that they have that space to inspect themselves, to generate improvement guidelines, and introduce that learning into the organization, scale it. That's my responsibility. So that basically brought me to this framework. Yes, that is the one that I created. Basically, in this framework, what I got to propose for for the creation of the retrospective in my case was like, well, look, if we really want to generate unforgettable retrospectives for our team members, we actually got to step a little bit back, pause for a second, and just have a bit of complex thinking when creating that retrospective, right? Which means, like, when we create the retrospective, let's have in mind, one, the organizational culture and environment of our team members, the type of team that our the type of team that we have coming into the retrospective, and what are their interaction modes. Also, let's be very careful about the logistics that we have, that we can use and that we have at hand for the delivery of that retrospective. And also, let's be very clear of the goal of that retrospective. So this is what I call contextual factors. And they became pretty important because when I didn't consider them, my retrospective, they wasn't as good as it could be. Yeah. So that was the first thing. To set up an amazing retrospective, be clear of the organizational culture and environment, of the team that you're facing, of the logistics that you got at hand, and of the goal that you want to achieve. After you have clear those elements, after you got those elements clear, then let's go into the process and psychological safety of the retrospective. Yeah. So what comes next is, like, with the context variables clear, yeah, now you can set up the retrospective in a sense that you know now how you can foster connection and intimacy, how you can facilitate psychological safety and openness, how you can structure the data gathering, how you can achieve the insights and improvements, and how you should close and set the next steps, right? So what I learned from 54 remote retrospectives in 5 months is that if you want to set up a good remote retrospective, or a good retrospective in general, please bear in mind the contextual factors that affect your retrospective, and also the process to set up your retrospective. Because at the end, what I discovered, very humble from my experience, is that retrospectives are not just an event, are actually a gathering. Okay? A gathering for critical reflection and progress agreement setting. All right? This is how I came to understand retrospectives. They are a gathering for critical reflection towards improvement. Right? So what does that mean? Well, as I mentioned, when you contemplate the context factors, because your retrospective doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? When you contemplate the context factor, think, well, you know, my organization, yeah, what's the organizational culture? Because the level of sociability and solidarity that exists in the organization will affect what you can expect from the team members, right? So that's something key to contemplate. Also, what type of team are you bringing to the retrospective? Are you bringing a streamlined team? Are you bringing an enabling team? Are you bringing a platform team? There's different typologies of teams. In this case, I'm using one of them, but I'm sure you also have your typology of team. The message here is just be clear what type of team it's coming to the retrospective, because with some teams, some retrospective will be more effective than others, right? A very quickly example, if you have a team that is a streamlined team, is highly operative, maybe they're in the middle of an initiative and they have gotten stuck, a sailboat retrospective would be the best one, because it would allow them, that they're highly operative, to understand, okay, what are the bottlenecks, what are the risks, what is pushing them forward, and align once again in the mission. Yes? So this is an example. The other contextual factors that you got to be aware of is, of course, what's going to be the goal of the retrospective. Are you going to overview with your team in general processes, relationships, people, or are you going to be very focused in one particular process? You know, how are we doing the recruitment? for X or Y segment of candidates. Like, what is it that's going to be the goal of the retrospective? It's a contextual factor that you got to have clear, yes? And finally, and not less important, is the logistics. Fundamental. The technology that you got at hand, the time that you got at hand, what other resources you can use, your team capacity for that day that you want to set up the retrospective, you know, what's going on with their calendars. Is it a day in which there's a lot of pressure and they won't be able to focus? Like, just care about the logistics. Yes. Another important factor that can allow you, once you think about it, build an unforgettable retrospective. Then the process of the retrospective begins in itself, yes? And something that I came to learn is that we're usually pretty good at starting from the area, starting at facilitating safety and openness, and then going to the gathering of the data, generating the insights and closing. But sometimes we're forgetting something that it's clear, that it's very important, my excuses, and it's to foster connection and intimacy. Yeah. So in the framework that I created, basically what I'm saying is, like, if we want to create a good retrospective, the first step is for us to help our team members develop a connection and intimacy so they can feel relaxed and connected while thinking together critically about their sprints and the improvements to achieve, right? And there are some little activities that can help with this. Check-in activities, icebreakers, team alone times, and we're going to see in the area of tool a little bit of this. An example is, as they join the retrospective, you invite them to a Mentimeter poll, and you ask in that Mentimeter poll, you know, how are you feeling? You know, what's the last amazing thing that you ate? What is a key question that you want to answer in today's retrospective? Or, you know, a funny question. What was the last thing you screw up during this week? Something like this. Just a little activity that allows them to foster connection and activity can make a huge difference in the voice and tone that the retrospective gets. Okay, so very important. First step for an unforgettable retrospective, make sure that you foster connection and intimacy. The second step is to facilitate psychological safety and openness, right? And some activities that can help us with this is to have your retro agreements, you know. So what are the working agreements for this retrospective? Are X, Y, and Z, yes? Or what we're going to be focusing on and focusing off in this retrospective. Those are activities that can help you deliver, yes, an environment of safety and openness, and that can leverage the creation of an unforgettable retrospective. The other thing, of course, is that we came to the retrospective because we want to inspect ourselves. Yes, we want to see what is it that we got to improve. We want to adapt better to the project, the product, the market environment, whatever is the end of the retrospective. But at the end, we want to improve. So the next step in any good retrospective, especially one that we're seeking to make unforgettable, is to structure the data gathering. Yes, because we have a responsibility with the team members and with the organizations in helping them achieve that critical thinking. Yeah, and there are some tools that can help in the structured data gathering. That is, for example, satisfaction histograms for the team, evaluations of how they're doing in terms of their team value, how they're achieving their team values, timeline, exploring the work timeline, you know, in our sprint, in release 1, in release 2, in release 3, what we did, how did it go. So timelines are pretty useful. Then a portfolio of retrospective, right? Or the portfolio of retrospectives can be very useful. And what I mean here is that a sailboat retrospective, a keep, start, stop, improve, Three Little Pigs, hot balloon, learn, like, love, what went well, what went wrong, what we got improved, or the pleasure and gain retrospective. Whichever retrospective you pick, given the issue and what you want to explore with the team, that is actually a mechanism for data gathering. Yes, at the end, the retrospective type that you pick allows you to gather X or Y set data. Yeah, so be very aware of that. When you pick a sailboat retrospective, it allows you to gather one type of data. When you pick a keep, start, stop, and improve retrospective, it allows you to gather another type of data, and it allows different questioning from part of the team members, right? It puts them in a different journey, all right? It pushes the team member, or opens for the team member different questions, right? So be very aware that when you pick those retrospective, you are structuring your data gathering. And if you consciously do that, you are on your way to achieve an unforgettable retrospective, because it would be more aligned with your goals, and it will support and provide a better journey for your team members and a better outcome for your organization. The next step is what I call achieve insights and improvements. And that basically is like, after we got the data, yeah, from the team members on the things that they learn, like, long for, lack, or whichever retrospective you have used, it will give you different data, right? The thing is that that data is not useful if we don't do then something else, right? Which is, you know, either cluster it or see what of that is pushing us forward, what is pushing us back, or if we don't like, or if we ask ourselves, you know, why is that a rock in this project? For example, if you're doing the sailboat retrospective, why is it a rock, you know, and why has become that, and why. So you have different strategies after you have set up the data gathering structure, and those tools to actually achieve the insights and improvements are, for example, clustering, force field analysis, the 5 why, the fishbone, the Pareto 2080, voting is very, very useful to, you know, achieve the insights and get the improvements for the next sprint. Priority matrices, and also like the 6 hats or helicoptering, right? These are all tools to transform the data gathered through the retrospective that you picked into insights and improvements. Yes, and it's funny, but sometimes we don't do properly this step, and it's one of the most important steps. And to close up the retrospective, of course, you have the retrospective closure, very important. As you know, psychologically, we tend to remember the ending of things. So very important when you end the retrospective that, you know, you make a synthesis, you summarize all the key learnings, you thank the team members for their time and their effort, and you set up a call for action. Yeah, so the next steps that we're going to take, very important. So people get out of the retrospective with a synthesis, A, B, C, we learned, and next steps are this. Very important, as I mentioned. So those are the things that I conceive that, if you take into consideration, can help you achieve an unforgettable retrospective. Yes, and as you see, if you go with this mindset and with this framework, when you are setting up your retrospective, you are using a strategic thinking when designing your retrospective. And of course, a strategic thinking gives different results than just operative thinking. Yeah. So make sure to be very strategic about your retrospective. What are the context factors? What are the process steps that can help me deliver an amazing experience for my team members and support their learning and their organizational learning? Now, there's some punctual tools, as I mentioned, for example, to foster connection and intimacy. You have the weather report that allows you to learn how the team is feeling, or the traffic light reports also allows you to see, how the team members are feeling. They feel like they really got to stop, that they're blocked, that they cannot move forward, or they're feeling neutral, like, they're doing something but they could improve it, or they're feeling like they are just rocking it out of this world and nothing can stop them, right? You have also the basic one, I'm feeling very sad, someone sad, neutral, someone happy, very happy, just to learn their feelings. As I mentioned, to provide intimacy, you can use tools, for example, like Mural or like Miro, to generate a space, a remote space for your team. You can design for them maybe a beach, and in that beach, they are alone and by themselves, and they can ask each other whichever question they want. So something that I like to do is, as they enter the retrospective, I ask one word mood to set the connection. Then I send them to their breakout room, where I call their intimacy room. And then there they can just have access to what I created for them. For example, a beach scenario, and they discuss by themselves alone. I'm not there. Any of the cards that they want. Usually the cards have questions, something like, for example, if you knew that this next sprint would be your last as a team, what would you do differently? So the idea is that they just have a space for themselves, 2-3 minutes to discuss, and to feel themselves in another space. So digitally, you still can provide an amazing space for your teams, okay? Then another tool for retrospective that can help you in the openness is, for example, the working agreements. In this retro, we are going to accept this. We are not going to accept that. We want to achieve this. So retro working agreements help. Also, tools like focus on and focus off allow safety and openness. For example, we will focus on inquiry. We will focus off advocacy, we will focus on dialogue, we will focus off debate, we will focus on conversation, we will focus off argument, we will focus on understanding, we will focus off defending. This is actually a great tool. I didn't create it. It was created by Diana Larson and Esther Derby, but I love it. I use it. And in my framework, it supports openness and psychological safety. In terms of retrospectives that can allow you to gather data, you have a lot of different retrospectives. I use the sailboat retrospective when I need to learn in terms of operations, what it's something that it's a rock and a risk for a team, and what is moving them forward and align them. So I love this retrospective to optimize operations. Then is the keep, stop, start, improve. I love this retrospective to set good habits into the team and for them to explore what are some bad habits or things that they shouldn't do. So as we know, one of the principles of Agile is also to maximize the things that we shouldn't do. So this one kind of really helps a lot in several of the Agile principles. So I love this one. Then you have the hot balloon, also very popular retrospective and very quick to do. What is lifting us up? What is lifting us down? What are some risks? Very, very easy and direct. Also the pleasure and gain retrospective. But this allows to, explore more that arena of relationship, people, and feelings. So I love it if you really need to go deeper with your team on what's going on. The 4 L's also is another great retrospective to inspect and another tool. And then you have what I call tools to achieve insights and improvements. So you may have used this one already. The 5 whys, pick top 3 subjects that emerge as key to improve, and then ask ask with the team, you know, why is this happening? Why? You ask the 5 whys, and it gets wonderful answers. And then, of course, dot vote to see what is it that you can do next sprint, right? If not, help them cluster by themes, and then let them dot vote what are the things that they want to step up next sprint and make it happen. Yeah. The Ichikawa diagram, it's another one that can help turn whatever emerged from the retrospective that you picked into an insight, into an improvement, and the same process, right? You just gotta vote. And another final instrument that I'm providing you here to achieve insights and improvements is the 6 thinking hats, especially in the retro. If a very tough problem emerged that the team is seeing like a big impediment, to share within the team the different hats can actually allow the team to move forward into the solution. So I really recommend this if in the retrospective a very tough problem emerged. Usually it's a great tool to find solutions, all right? And of course, after you find them, implement the dot vote just to pick those that the whole team agree with and can move forward in the next sprint. I want to kind of wrap up by also telling you some of the tools that you can use for retrospective. I have explored these ones, Miro, Fun Retro, Retro, and also recently Mural, M-U-R-A-L, Mural. Pretty good, also beautiful display close to Miro, yeah? So these are some of the platforms that I use and that allow me to do my retrospective, especially Miro. I love Miro because it allows me to design, right? So I have the board, and then I can design a beach, a restaurant, or I can design a lounge for my teams to come in and have intimacy and think, or it gives me great flexibility for me to design my retrospective per se. For example, if I pick a sailboat, it gives me the freedom to design, you know, how it should look. So if you're very into designing the whole thing of your retrospective, Miro is quite useful. And if you want to be pretty streamlined with the Fun Retro and Retrium already have it done for you, you won't be able to be too creative with them. But, you know, it's a thing of preference. So just to let you know. Finally, something that I created and that emerged from a demand that actually a great colleague that she's a Scrum Master too had is what I call the retrospective output canvas. This can allow you to kind of like order all the insights that come out of your retrospective. Maybe the blocks will change. For example, if you have a sailboat retrospective, maybe the blocks in the Kanban are, you know, like the rocks, the risk, the next steps, yes. But at the end, the idea is that it is good just to have a tool that allows you in one page to have a view of the outcome of the retrospective. So what I'm trying to do here is just to foster that. Try to have a tool that in one page allows your team members that are pretty busy and never have time to just see and digest what were the outcomes and learnings from the retrospective. Well, if you have any experience and any question that you want to share regarding making unforgettable remote retrospective, please do share here in the YouTube comments or in the Agile Leads meetup, London meetup, or share with us at www.growthvikings.com, or maybe reach out to me in LinkedIn. My name is Nastasia Velasco, and share those experiences and questions with me, no problem. As I mentioned, you can also write to me at solutions@growthvikings.com. If you're interested in any templates, materials, article, videos, just write to me. If you're interested in some of the workshops and programs that we have coming up in the Agile arena, most of them are open and free, so you just gotta sign up and that's it. write me. And finally, if you're actually a change maker and you're super interested in creating agile knowledge, in sharing experiences with our community, so we can help organizations grow and team be the best version of themselves, please do write to us. We are looking forward to connect with amazing change makers like you. So that's it. I hope that you enjoyed this and that you go and rock it. Make your retrospectives unforgettable. Bye.